Hi guys, and welcome to the beginning of chapter 2. Before we jump into the lessons from the book, I wanted to just do an introductory lesson of, let's remember what a percent is. So the reason why we're talking about percents in the ratio and proportions unit is because a percent is a comparison of some number with 100. Oh, I should say a ratio. A ratio with 100. So that means like 100 is in the bottom of the fraction, right? Because a ratio means a fraction. So to go that way, if we have the percent of, say, 57%, to write that as a fraction, what this really means is 57 out of 100, or 57 hundredths, okay? So if you have just a double-digit percent like that, you can just write it over 100, and you're done. So, for example, like 33% as a fraction means 33 out of 100. Okay, and this works with percents that are bigger than 100%. So like 152% would be the same thing as 152 over 100, which gives us an improper fraction, and we can change that to a mixed number, because 100 goes into 152 one time, and that leaves the 52 over 100 left, and then we have to reduce our fraction, and so we get 1. And it turns out 52 and 100 are both divisible by 4, and it turns out to be 13/25. See how I said fractions just aren't ever going away? They're not going away, okay? And then sometimes it'll ask for a percent to a fraction in simplest form, so just know that you do have to reduce the fractions if you can. So say we have 55%, which would be 55 over 100, and both of those are divisible by 5, right? So then that reduces down to 11/20. And 11 is prime, so we're done there. Okay, so just, we always remember we have to reduce our fractions, right? Right. Okay. Next we can go the other direction. So to write a fraction as a percent, we can now use our knowledge of cross-multiplying to create equivalent fractions, because, again, a percent is some number compared to 100. And so we can set up a proportion. So let's say we have the fraction 2/9, and we want to know what percent that is. Okay, so there's actually two ways to do it. We can cross-multiply. Or we can divide. Okay, I'll talk about the dividing in just a second. So the cross-multiplying, again, we want an equivalent fraction or an equivalent ratio with 100 in the bottom, because that's what a percent is. So we just have to figure out what number goes up there. Now 9 doesn't go into 100 evenly, so we're going to cross-multiply. 2 times 100 is 200, and then we divide by the number that's left, and we end up with 22.2, and the 2's actually go on forever, but that would be the percent. That's what number, or the 22.2 would go on top there, but that's also the percent. Okay, now if we want to do the dividing, then we have to remember how to change decimals to percents, because we'll get a decimal, obviously. So change decimal to percent, and we do that by moving the decimal place to the right. Okay, essentially what we're doing is we're making the decimal, the percent, it's going to be a bigger number than the decimal. So we're going to, I'll say it this way. Percent should be bigger than the decimal. Okay, if that helps you know which direction to move your decimal place. Okay, essentially moving 2 places to the right is multiplying by 100. Like, that's just how the math works out. So this same example, 2/9, if we just divide 2 by 9, that equals 0.2 repeating. Okay, so there's our decimal. And then to change that to a percent, we're going to move that decimal place over 2 places, and it becomes 22.2%. Notice that's the same thing. It works both ways. So if you're starting with a fraction and you like the cross multiplying, then you don't have to worry about moving the decimal place, which is kind of nice. Okay. Let's see. Do you guys want to do another practice? Let's just do another practice of moving decimal places. Let's say we have the decimal 0.368. I don't know, why not? Okay, to change that to a percent, again, we just move the decimal place 2 places to the right, and it becomes 36.8%. Okay, this works out pretty well when you've got numbers like that. If you've got, say, a whole number, you've got 1.27, and we want to change that to a decimal, it's still or to a percent, still the same thing, moves over. And then when you have a whole number, it just means you have over 100%. So this is 127%. And you could do it with super, super small numbers too. So like 0.005. This is what happens when I'm making up my own numbers on the spot. Okay. As a percent, we move that decimal place over 2 places, and it's 0.5%. Okay, and that might seem really small, but when it comes to the world of business, stuff like, 0.5%, which is what this is, totally exists in the real world. So just learn to be okay with it, okay? So that is turning a decimal into a percent. We also, then to change a percent to a decimal, move decimal place to the left. Okay, again, we're going to then make a smaller number, or actually do the division of dividing by 100. Okay, so what that looks like is, say we have 87%. Okay, and right now you can't see a decimal place, right? And when you can't see one, it means it's just at the end of the number. So to change this percent to a decimal, we're going to move the decimal place 2 places to the left, and 87% as a decimal is 0.87. Okay, practice that a couple hundred times. 135% as a decimal, you move your decimal place over 2 places to the left, or essentially dividing by 100, and it's 1.35. Okay, or a really small percent, 0.7%. And we have a decimal place, but we're going to make it even smaller because we have to move it to the left 2 places. So that becomes 0.007. Okay, so over 100%, under 1%, those all still exist for sure. Okay, and then the last type of questions, most of the questions on this assignment are just changing percents to decimals, decimals to percents, fractions, all of that stuff, or just recognizing what a percent actually means. The last set of questions are ordering lots of numbers, and so we're just going to remember we did this in our rational numbers section. Remember, ordering numbers, change everybody all to decimals. Then I like to line them up vertically because I think it's easier if you line up the decimal places. It makes it a lot easier to compare them. So let's say we have this list of 72% and 3/4 and 5/8 and 0.33 and 0.92. Okay, so let's see if we can put these in order. We need to change the percent and the fractions to decimals. So change the percent to a decimal. We move the decimal place to the left 2 places. That becomes 0.72. 3/4 as a decimal is 0.75. 5/8 as a decimal, just checking on my calculator, make sure I don't mess it up, is 0.625. And then those two are already decimals, 0.33 and 0.92. So then the questions, or questions that you could answer from this is which one is the highest, and that's or which one has the greatest value. Greatest value would be the one with the 9 in the 10th place. Okay, smallest value is going to be the 33. And which one's closest to half, or 0.5? And I think the one closest to that would be this one in the middle, which actually as an answer you would say 5/8 because you want to put it back into the original form. If we just put these in order like we've done in the past, smallest is 0.33. Then next is the 6.25, which is the 5/8. Then next is the 72%. Then next is the 3/4. And the last one is 0.92. Okay? So that's our introduction or reminder of what a percent is.